Welcome back to the Loud Little Ducky. We are continuing our coverage and recaps of each of the witnesses in the Karen Reed retrial or trial 2.0, if you will. So, up for this video is firefighter Daniel Whitley. And his testimony is similar to what I remember from last year with certain things. He is witness number 5 for the Commonwealth. He works at Canton Fire Department. He was not a part of the same Canton department or whatever that picked up John O'Keefe. His role was picking up Karen Reed when they sectioned her, like section 12 her for a psych evaluation because of comments about unaliving. Um, so he is the one that took him with some other people, but he is one of the main ones that took Karen Reed to the hospital so that she could be evaluated. They also get into that he knew Carrie Roberts. They live like around the corner from each other, and there have been like block parties, I guess, that they know each other from. They're neighborly, I guess. Like they say like hey or hi if they see each other, but from what he says, they don't like hang out all the time, or they don't hang out like ever really. They just like community events they've seen each other because he would bring the fire truck to the block party for the kids to see. So um he says that Karen Reed's demeanor was that she was upset and crying, that she did not want to go to the hospital, but eventually she agreed because it didn't matter whether Karen Reed wanted to go or agreed to go. This was an involuntary hold. So, an involuntary means you're coming whether you like it or not. We don't need your permission. Um, when they were in the back of the ambulance on their way to the hospital, um, he says that Karen Reed asked if her husband could be alive without a coat for many hours. Um, she raised this question several times, and he like tried to calm her down and be like, "Oh, I've known people that have been in the ice and kids that have broken the ice and gone through and like they've lived," and like just trying to tell her stories to calm her down, like give her hope or whatever, which you're not supposed to give hope. You're supposed to be like, you know, they're doing everything they can. Let's make sure that you're okay. You can't be giving like false hope. That's usually what they tell you not to do. You can't be like, I'm sure everything's gonna be fine, because then they could be like, well, you lied to me. Um, they also aren't allowed to share medical information technically. And I do remember him testifying last year and saying that Karen Reed was calling John O'Keefe her husband. That's how he testified last year to it as well. And we're like, well, they're not married though. But it he said that last year too. So that was consistent. Um, he says she would go from upset and crying, then brought up the kids, that she can't take care of them, and they aren't his, they ain't hers either, and he knew by that comment that the person she was talking about was John O'Keefe, because the story of John O'Keefe, because he is a Boston police officer and in the town of Canton, and Canton is a small community, that John O'Keefe's story is very well known in the community about his sister passing and then then the passing of the sister's husband, and then the Boston police officer John O'Keefe took his niece and nephew in to raise as his own. Sorry, I have a snoring, grunty little pig wiener dog over here. She is noisy if you hear her. She has had a very rough day. My grandson uh likes to run after her and scream like a wild banshee. Like, he's crazy. He's almost 18 months. Um, he Karen, um he while he was trying to calm her, he was like, you knowing John O'Keefe's family and, like, support system and things like that, and people that were there on scene, is like, "Oh, you have a strong, like, a support system, like, to be there for you." And then Karen said, "Do you know Carrie Roberts?" And he was like, "Yeah, I actually do." Which seems like an off the wall an off the wall comment, but it is still to me a little bit of weird timing, but I don't know. Maybe she knew that he knew Carrie. Um, Maybe she saw Carrie talking to him. And so after he was like, "Oh, you have a strong support system," um, and she asked, "Oh, do you know Carrie? Because if you know Carrie, you wouldn't say that." Um, because if I remember correctly, there was something about Jen telling Karen or somebody telling Karen that Carrie Roberts had told someone, or maybe she said it to John one time and John told her, but somebody told Karen at one point that Carrie said that Karen was just a glorified babysitter, that Sean didn't actually maybe wanna be with her or something, or he was just with her because she was a glorified babysitter because 'cause she'd watch the kids all the time while John worked, so basically he was just, like, using her as a babysitter for the kids, which is not great, but it makes you wonder too, like, well, I know why she would call Carrie, because she knows Carrie is good friends with John, so maybe she had heard from John, um in her mind, she's thinking, if anybody heard from John, it'd probably be Carrie. So, I don't know. Um, that after she said that comment about, well, if you know Carrie, then you wouldn't be saying that. Um, and she rolled her eyes and put her head back down. Um, don't know what that means, but he remembers it distinctly. Um, he said he thought it was bizarre that she would say that and like respond that way. Um, Said that Karen was giving the nurse a hard time about getting into the hospital gown, which they call a Johnny in Massachusetts, I guess. We just call it a gown, a hospital gown. Um, and that she was not wanting to give them a urine sample. Um, that was his direct. Then he is on cross, and David Yannetti, which is another attorney for Karen Reed, he's the one that does the cross, and he talks about, okay, section 12 is for involuntary psych evaluator. Um, he had spoke with Officer Seraph and Mulaney at the scene. He Yannetti asks firefighter Daniel Whitley, "Did you get a medical history?" And so he was like, she has a so that you know then that she has like a chronic neurological muscle disease. Um, and Burnett objects. He does not want this coming in because he doesn't want anybody having sympathy for Karen Reed. Uh, Judge allows it, so he says, she has the neurological muscle disease, called MS, which is multiple sclerosis, and, that is a disease that progressively gets worse over time. Um, and then they talk about the statement that he said that about hypothermia because he said something about, I'm sure he's okay. Um, and he talks about, the kids and the ice and being out in the snow or cold water after ice breaks or something, and they survived. And they talk about he's assuming that John O'Keefe had hypothermia, but he can't medically diagnose it. Um, but he was just thinking hypothermia because something about John O'Keefe's being in the cold for a long period of time with like just a thin long sleeve shirt over a t-shirt. Because I guess Karen talked about that in the ambulance ride. Um, and he was asked, do you know many of the Canton officers since you work with Canton Fire Department? He said, yes, I do know them. But the only ones I talked to on scene were Seraph and Mulaney. And Michael Proctor interviewed him. Um, so Proctor's fingerprints are all over this one. And if you do not know about Proctor, Proctor is the lead investigator in this case. He has since been fired, dishonorably discharged due to his actions in this case. Um, as AJ described it in opening statements, he is like a cancer that the Commonwealth cannot get rid of in this case. And Proctor's fingerprints are on this interview, as well as firefighter Timothy Nettles' interview, which was the first witness. Um, and that apparently he called Karen Reed snarky. This firefighter that dealt with Karen Reed said that Karen Reed was snarky in a previous testimony or his report. They talked about, like for her first impression on his report, behavior was like behavioral psychological or psych episode. The second impression was anxiety slash emotionally upset. Nothing about snarky there, right? that she was visibly crying, but cooperative was written in the report. So in his report, she was cooperative. Now she's not cooperative in his testimony, saying that, um, he asks him, says, in your report, you said that Karen Reed wanted to see John O'Keefe, or he said it in his previous testimony, and he doesn't remember that or whatever. Um, but he said it before, so maybe the reason she wasn't being cooperative and wanting to put on a gown or take a urine test is because she wanted to go see John first, because she was at the same hospital he was at, and or that maybe she wanted privacy to be able to use the restroom to do the urine sample, but because she's on an involuntary psych hold or she's on any psych hold, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, you have somebody with you at all times. You cannot go to the bathroom by yourself. A nurse or a tech or somebody is going to be in there while you pee. Karen Reed was TMI on her period. Um, so they talked about that. And so maybe she wanted privacy because of that. Um, I was thinking also, but the jury does not know that she has Crohn's as well. So maybe she wanted privacy to use the restroom due to her Crohn's condition. Um, so she has MS, multiple sclerosis, and she also has Crohn's. Crohn's hasn't come out yet. It will come out for sure when we get to Michael Proctor because he talks disgustingly about her medical condition. Um, so maybe that's why she didn't want to give a urine sample and she wasn't being cooperative. So seeing John, her period, I'm saying maybe the Crohn's as well. They didn't say that. Um, and um, And so that's where he kinda talked about it. He's like, "Oh, was sh," saying she was snarky, um, and denying that she wanted to go see John, or he just doesn't remember it, even though he's testified to it previously. That's a problem with these witnesses, is not only was their grand jury testimony, they've also been interviewed or have written statements. Some of them have given reports, and then many of them testified last year at that trial, and now they're testifying again. So each one of these witnesses has 3 to 4 or even more statements and things that they have said. And so when they try to testify about something that's different than before, they can be impeached and it can be used against them. That's why if you're telling the truth is going to be just the truth. Like, you don't have to remember a bunch of stuff if you just speak the truth. You don't add in things, just say things how they were. You don't need to add a bunch of stuff into it. Um, and then there's a redirect, and, Brennan's like, "You weren't you were just trying to say what you remember, you were just trying to comfort her, right?" Um, and he's like, "You're not here to lie, right?" And he's like, "No." And it's like, and you're not having like, even though you and Carrie Roberts know each other and y'all have had a black block party, y'all aren't having like block party conspiracy meetings with each other, right? And he's like, no, like, okay, that's a weird question to ask, sir. Are you having conspiracy meetings? Even if they were, they wouldn't say yes. Like, so, I mean, what does that do? I mean, do you think that bolsters his testimony? It's just a weird question. But that is the end of his testimony. Um, We started with that for the day. Um, Now there was a video clip that was played before he took the stand this morning, um, because there was a clip that Hank Brennan wanted to play after John O'Keefe's mother, Peggy O'Keefe, testified. And the judge wasn't sure that she was going to allow this clip in. And so she thought about it overnight and then decided that she would let the Commonwealth play this clip. This clip is probably the worst clip that they have shown of Karen Reed thus far. And when we concluded day 3, they had played 11 clips so far. And so the clip was of Karen Reed um, of April. It was the ID docuseries, and it was done on April 13th, 2024. And the Commonwealth, Hank Brennan, says this is for consciousness of guilt. And he argues a bunch of stuff about, oh, she moved the murder weapon from John O'Keefe's house. But he didn't say at the house. He said she moved the murder weapon from the scene. Well, John O'Keefe's house was not the scene. 34 Fairview was the scene. But that she moved her stuff from John's house to go to her parents' house, and she took her car with her to her parents' house, even though her parents came with her, so she coulda just rode with her parents to her parents' house. She came back to John's to get her stuff from John's, which means getting her car as well, and then, like, either Karen followed her parents back to her parents, or her parents followed her, so that they all got there safely. She wasn't, in my opinion, trying to take her car, which the Commonwealth says is the murder weapon because it hit John O'Keefe and killed him, is what their theory is. I don't necessarily buy that theory, but that this is her consciousness of guilt moving the weapon because she could have just left it there at the scene. She had no reason to take it. I don't think this clip shows that. Uh, but here's what the clip said. Karen Reed says that John O'Keefe's mother leans over the kitchen island to her and says, "He looks like he got hit by a car." Like, "He looks like he's been hit by a car. He's looks like he's been hit from a car." And she says it mockingly like that. I'm not gonna play the clips on these because they like to strike and give copyright claims for clips like that. So I am not going to use clips from the TV specials because the TV people get real cranky about that stuff. Um, and so Karen says this, in like a mocking, mimicking way, and has, like the face, like, he's been hit by a car. It looks like he's been hit by a car. So it makes Karen look bad because you're thinking, wow, she just lost her son, and you're over here like mocking her. And so it seems cruel. It seems, oh, she doesn't have remorse. Well, the thing about remorse is if you didn't do the thing, you can't be remorseful for something that you didn't do. But also, Yeah, it may not come off great, but if this woman dislikes you and John O'Keefe's mother blames Karen for her son's death, and Karen Reed, if she is in fact truly innocent, if Karen Reed is innocent and she knows that she did not kill John O'Keefe, the relationship is not going to be good. I don't know that it was good beforehand. Um, so Karen Reed may not like John O'Keefe's mom. John O'Keefe's mom may not like Karen. But that doesn't mean that because they don't have a great relationship and Karen is being somewhat disrespectful towards John O'Keefe's mother, that does not mean she is a murderer. Like, they can be different. You can have a horrible relationship with a so-called mother-in-law type thing, even though she wasn't married to him, but you get what I'm saying, and not kill them. You could also be a serial killer and be lovey-dovey with, like, dogs. Or you can be really good to your mother, and you can be a really good husband, but you lead a double life and you kill a bunch of people. Like, just because there's one thing doesn't mean it's the other thing. So, but this clip doesn't look good, and they put Peggy O'Keefe on the stand, one, because she is the mom and can tell a little bit about John, and also it's a sympathy play. Even though the jurors are told not to, return a verdict based on emotions or sympathy just because you feel bad or you want somebody to be held accountable. Like, you can't rule because you feel sorry for them. Um, just like you can't return a verdict because somebody's in the defendant chair, and so if they're in that seat, they're automatically bad. Innocent people get put in that seat all the time. So we'll see how the verdict or how the jury takes that video. It definitely doesn't show consciousness of guilt. It also impeaches Peggy O'Keefe, which you can see that in her video, she doesn't remember that conversation ever happening. But that's where we were with that witness. So let me know what you think about this clip that they let in. Let me know what you think about uh, this firefighter, Daniel Whitley, that took Karen Reed to the hospital. And subscribe, like the video, turn those notification bells on so you know every time I upload a video about each of the witnesses in this case. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Loud little ducky coming through, speaking truth, unabashed, calling out the liars, debunking falsehoods with a blast. I ain't afraid to say what's real, won't ever hold back. Gonna shake the system up, turn it all off track. I see through the smoke, the mirrors in the disguise, expose the hidden agenda. No more room for their lies. The truth is my weapon, I won't let it be concealed. I'm the voice for the voiceless, no longer gonna yield. In a world full of deception, I'm here to set it straight, bringing justice to the forefront. Won't accept their twisted fate. They may try to silence me, but my voice will still prevail. A sparking revolution, it's a truth-telling tale.